Hey, I'm Daniel Cohn, editorial director here at Spin, and we're here with Mikel from the Airborne Toxic Event. How you doing today?
Good, very good. How are you?
All right, hanging in there. So, in your book, is it right to call it an autobiography or a memoir?
A memoir, yeah.
So,
yeah.
a
Same
big
thing,
issue
sort of,
in
yeah.
Hollywood Park you address is mental health.
Yeah.
So, how do you see how that your mental health from a young age to now has blossomed? Let's just say. Because there's ways that you could still go back to that past trauma, but at this point, after reading that and seeing and hanging, feels like you're in a good place.
Yeah, I'm in a pretty good place these days. It's funny, we're talking about like growing up here. I think when I was like 12 years old when I moved here from Oregon to live with my dad, and like we were just little shitty skate punks, man. We were just like hitting up walls and getting high in the alley behind the church before school, and just like completely. And we used to sneak out at night and do drugs and destroy property. Like we had this whole thing in Westchester where we would like run around Westchester and rip Christmas lights off and push people's. We were just like little shitheads, like the most little shithead. But we were just angry. You know, we didn't know what to aim it at. I think probably part of it was we just felt like no one really gave a shit what we did. So I don't even know if it was for attention. Maybe looking back now, I would think that, but. And then I remember my brother, he got into heavy drugs like PCP and coke and stuff by the time he was like 14. And it was scary because he had to go off to rehab. And I remember being scared by it and being like, oh man, I don't want to go down that road. And that's what goes down that road. And like my uncles had all gone to prison, my dad had gone to prison. And so I was like, I don't want to go to prison. So I was like, maybe I'll try this school thing out. And then, what's funny is it worked. I did really well in school and became kind of this like overachiever type, but like to just trying to get to mental health, like I think internally I was just dealing with crazy amounts of anxiety, some really, really hard stuff that happened to me when I was a kid. First 10 years of my life were like pretty crazy, and a lot of neglect, a lot of abuse and stuff. And I think on the outside, there's a lot of us like this, right? Where like we put on these masks and it seems like we're doing really well. But internally we're just a wreck, and there's just this really harsh internal voice. It's like, you piece of shit, you fucking do this, you get it right, and some people, they handle that voice by drinking because they're trying to quiet it down or doing drugs or whatever. And then some people, I think, like me, were trying to outrun it. And you can't. Like, I think I got to like age 27 and it kind of all caught up with me, where it's like you would think from the outside like, oh man, this guy's got it together, but it just like cracks started to appear, and then it was a really long time of like learning, oh man, I gotta like deal with this stuff. I get the depression and anxiety and addictive tendencies and stuff, and I gotta talk about it. I gotta think about it. I gotta acknowledge it. And there's just no shortcut around that process.
How do you find it to maintain as a touring artist? It feels like there's so many distractions and potential pitfalls on the road that you can slip back into, like you can go in a potentially downward spiral.
Totally. Touring is wild because every night in our writer, like there's like a bottle of whiskey, a bottle of vodka, 2 bottles of wine, and a case of beer. There's 5 of us. And that's every night. And also there's nothing to do. So, you're far away from home, you got nothing to do for like 8 hours. And so, yeah, there's a lot of drinking. There's a lot of like disorientation. You're just sitting there in your bunk between like Detroit and Chicago. And by the way, I'm not saying we have it hard. Like, there's people in coal mines.
Right.
Like, people with, like, black lung, like, yeah, I got it really hard.
Right.
Really difficult being in a touring rock band. So I'm not saying it's hard. What I'm saying is it's disorienting.
It's grueling.
Not even that. It's disorienting.
Uh-huh.
You tend to kind of be out of your comfort zone and not know where you are. And then you have these extremes of, like, you're on stage and everyone's screaming your name and you feel like the biggest deal ever and you get this big ego boost. And then, bam, you're off stage. And you're on to the next city, and you're alone in your bunk, and the people you love are far away, and you're just sitting there. And so there's these total highs and total lows of like loneliness, and so it's difficult. And I had to like do a bunch of stuff. Like now I'm married with 2 kids, and now I don't really drink much on the road. I don't get drunk at all on the road. These days, when I walk off the stage and go straight to FaceTime and help my wife put the kids down. It's like the least rock and roll.
Virtual parenting.
Hey man. I love my kids, I don't want to miss that stuff. And it was this last tour, we did 56 dates last year, and it was hard to be away. It wasn't like the thing in like when the band first started where it was like, yeah, we're going to go to this city and take it over, or this city. There's that kind of feeling, It was more like, I miss my kids because they're beautiful.
But that's
and I
also an
wanna see
element of
'em.
mental health, is
Totally.
dealing with that, being away and just missing out on the small things. And
So for me, like I had a shrink for like 5 years, twice a week on the couch for 5 years. You gotta like, it's sort of like this thing where you gotta talk about stuff, right? You gotta externalize it, and then once you externalize it, you can kind of look at it. So part of it's just recognizing like, oh, I was abused and neglected as a kid, and I was born in an orphanage. There's the whole thing. And like you got to get it outside of yourself and then sort of look at it. And then once you look at it, it's like you can start to make new decisions. And so when you can't look at it, you're just reacting. Oh, I feel bad. Maybe I'll go drink. Oh, I feel bad. Maybe I'll go act out in some other way or whatever. But once you're able to sort of look at it and reflect on it, like, oh, I feel bad. Okay, I'm feeling like I want to go drink or act out. Maybe I should go do some other shit. Maybe I should just recognize I feel bad. And, it takes a while to just sit on your hands and hurt in those moments and just be like, there's going to be some discomfort. And then you start to make new choices. Oh, I'm going to try and like have some real friendship and love in my life. I'm going to open up to my friends like, listen, I'm having a hard time, and not feel like I have to hide it behind some big mask of like acting like everything's cool. And then people, it's like that idea, like, once you put an idea out in the universe sort of conspires. Same thing is true socially. You start to tell people, yeah, I'm having a hard time today. And I didn't do that for forever. I just try to come off as like invincible all the time. And like, yeah, I'm missing my kids. I'm missing my wife. I'm feeling lonely. Things are tough. And then friends start to kind of give it back to you. Like, oh man, I'm sorry. Let's go grab some lunch. Or, hang in there, buddy. Let's talk about it. And then start to manifest that. And then now, instead of being stuck in some little prison in your head, it's like now there's some new choices that can be made. And I think that's true for, rock and roll singers on buses, sure. But like, that's true for anybody, in school. It's true for people who are, dealing with their jobs and their lives and their relationships. There's nothing particularly special about my life that those same things don't apply, in other scenarios.
that's the beauty about a fest like this. You can go home right after, right?
Dude.
And be active, an active parent too.
Dude, I don't have to like go back to a hotel room. It's so great. And then like get on some cross-country, international flight or something to come on. No, this is great. This is like my favorite festival right now because we just live in Silver Lake. So I just like came down this morning. We're going to play, go back later tonight.
A zip up, zip down.
Dude, I'm here with my wife. We're hanging out. The kids are with grandma. It's like,
there you go, a big day out.
it's great. No, seriously, this is one of those like, hey, we made it through the pandemic. We're all here. Going to watch the Modest Mouse and Pixies. Like, fucking great day.
And again, back into mental health. Alone time with wife is, you need that.
Absolutely.
It's very, when you have kids, it's very, very underrated how important that is.
Dude, every time we hang out, we do it a lot now. Like, we get away and we're always like, I like you. Like, God.
We're not battling over, put this one to sleep, this
For
one
real,
has to do homework.
because you're just co-parenting all the time, and we're good co-parents, but it's a job. It's like a lot of work. And so when we get away and it's just the two of us chilling, and we're just like fucking, binge watching Netflix or whatever, and we're just like, dude, you're fun to hang out with. So are you. This has been fun. This is why we got married.
It's hard to lose track of that, or to remember that when you have kids, just because, like you said, it's a job on top of a job on top of a job, and just mental health is just like, by the end it's like, ugh.
Well, I do think though, so there is like a mental health crisis happening in the country right now, particularly with teenagers, particularly with teenage girls. And what's really interesting about it is, if you take the graph of like the increase in depression rates, anxiety rates among teenage girls, like for boys it's like this, for girls it's like this, and you put it right on top of another graph, it matches perfectly. And you know what that graph is? Instagram adoption. Literally, starting in 2012, it starts to go off. So it's pre-Trump, it's pre-pandemic, So yeah, you could argue it's this generation, like, they feel screwed by global warming, and they're right, and they feel like they're not going to inherit a great world as good as their parents, and they're right. But I think there's also this sense of like, every day people have to make this like magazine about their lives and have a public identity that people are going to judge, and it's particularly hard on the girls because they're particularly harshly judged because of it at this age in their lives, and it's just really, really, I think, difficult, isolating. There's a lot of online bullying that passes for other things, and I just, my soapbox is I don't think that, social media is, too much of it is very bad. And anyways.
Yeah, well, thanks for swinging by. Is there anything else you want to say or share to everyone out there?
Can't wait to see the Pixies. So excited to see the Pixies right now. I haven't seen them in so long, and it's going to be awesome.
There you go.